Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. We're really excited to have you here. We're just going to give it about another minute for everyone to join in, and we'll go ahead and get started.
Good morning.
Good morning.
There you all are. Jaya, how are you?
Doing well. Excited for today.
I bet you are. Yeah. Paula, nice to see you.
Nice to see you too. Nice to see you all.
Morning.
Our spring conference day has arrived, and for the first time virtual. So
Indeed.
Nice to see you, Paula. Steve.
Maria,
hi
nice to see
Maria,
you
nice
too.
to see you.
Thanks for all you're doing. My goodness.
Thank you for keeping us in mind. Thank you, Jay, for all the work.
Of course.
Our UN partners have been amazing this past year, considering how challenging it was in many ways. As well as our educators. I'm so happy to see Amy there and Audrey.
All right, we can go ahead and get started. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the 17th Annual Global Classrooms DC Spring Model UN Conference Open House. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Jaya Lala, and I'm the Senior Global Education Manager and run the Global Classrooms DC program. We're so excited that you guys could join us virtually today. Just to glance over today's agenda, we'll be starting off today's program with remarks from UNA NCA President, Ms. Paula Boland. I'll cover some highlights from this school year, and then we'll hear from our GCDC educators. At the midpoint, we'll break for 5-minute breakout rooms and then round out the program with a word from our partners and program sponsors. With that, I'll turn it over to UNA NCA President, Ms. Paula Boland.
Thank you very much, Jaya. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Open House program of our 2021 Spring Model UN Conference, the culminating event of our year-round flagship education program, Global Classrooms DC. As Jaya said, I'm the president of the UN Association of the National Capital Area. I also served as the chair of the National Council for UNA USA. We are among one of the largest and most active chapters of the UN Association of USA, dedicated to raising awareness and promoting the vital work of the UN and to building a strong US-UN partnership. I encourage you to join our association if you're not already a member and engage in the many programs and committees we have covering issues such as education, sustainable development, international law, peace and security, and human rights, among others. As many of you know, on September of 2015, countries adopted a set of goals to end poverty, protect the planet, and ensure prosperity for all as part of a new sustainable development agenda. Each goal has specific targets to be achieved by 2030. For the goals to be reached, everyone needs to do their part: governments, the private sector, civil society, and people like you. Now is the time to invest in the decade of action and empower national, regional, and local governments, as well as the private sector and civil society to work in partnership for the effective implementation of the goals, both globally and locally. Global Goal 4 ensures inclusive and quality education for all and promotes lifelong learning. Access to quality education is the foundation for improving people's life and sustainable development. Over the past decade, major progress was made towards increasing access to education and school enrollment rates at all levels, particularly for women and girls. In 2020, as the COVID-19 pandemic spread across the globe, a majority of countries had to close schools, which resulted in 1.6 billion children and youth out of school. Never before have so many children been out of school at the same time. The global pandemic has far-reaching consequences that may jeopardize hard-won gains made in improving global education. The pandemic has really exposed that the challenges of the 21st century are truly global in nature and need a global response. We at UNANCA have been able to build and strengthen our GCDC program thanks to key partnership collaborations. I want to start by thanking the State Department and its International Organization Affairs Bureau for their partnership collaboration over the many, many years. While we truly miss being on the State Department premises, we're very appreciative of the ongoing support we have received in preparation for today's conference. And of course, many thanks to our UN partner agencies for their wonderful collaboration as support during quite a challenging year, and to our many sponsors and donors. Lastly, certainly but not last, I want to express much gratitude to our many volunteers who have participated during the school year, talking to our students, serving as policy advisors, or adopting a class. I will now pass it on to Jia Lala, our Senior Education Manager, who, along with her wonderful team, have done an incredible job this past year, adjusting the program to virtual instruction and supporting our educators and partners to make it possible for all of us, our students and educators, to be here today. Thank you. And I hope you will have the time later today to attend the opening ceremonies, which will include welcome remarks from Secretary of State Blinken, and the sessions to see the students in action. Thank you very much. And Jaya, back to you.
Thank you so much, Paula. I just wanted to say thank you to you. With your leadership and guidance, we've really been able to successfully adapt to the circumstances presented by this pandemic. I wanted to also, again, express my sincere thanks for the commitment we've received over the past year from our partners, sponsors, and donors that are joining us today. The transition to virtual learning has not been easy, but with support from all of you, we have been able to engage our students, educators, and partners in a really meaningful way. Over the past year, we've provided a wide range of virtual programming, which kicked off with virtual Model UN sessions following the cancellation of the Spring 2020 Model UN conference. As we started understanding what Model UN would look like virtually, we began adapting our entire year-round program for distance learning, including distance learning guidance for all activities and a guide for conducting Model UN on a virtual platform. As we started off the 2020 to 2021 school year, we also began offering monthly virtual Model UN sessions that directly correlated with the mini simulations available in our year-round curriculum. Between September and March, we held 8 virtual sessions for the GCDC community, including webinars with our UN partners, 1-hour simulations, and workshops with individual schools. The GCDC team also successfully held our annual Fall Model UN training conference virtually for the first time. Over the course of 4 committee sessions, 125 students from 11 schools debated issues related to the topic of access to vaccines and affordable medicines. This year's conference also featured a special edition crisis committee for the first time, where delegates were faced with an Ebola outbreak. Of the 94 students surveyed at the conference, 92% reported having a better understanding of the conference, while 79% felt more confident applying problem solving and leadership skills in a group setting. Which now brings us to our culminating Spring 2021 Model UN conference. Although our conference looks a little bit different this year, I'm happy to say that we have 152 students attending this year's conference from 20 schools across the DC, Maryland, and Virginia area, as well as across the nation in Connecticut and New Jersey, and around the world in Venezuela. And before we hear from our partners, I'd like to invite Audrey Park from Bells Mill Elementary and Cabin John Middle Schools and Amy Trunkle from Alice Steele Middle Schools to share their brief remarks. Amy, we're going to start with you today. Sorry, Audrey, we're going to start with you. So sorry about that.
Hi, Amy. Amy and I, we could do this together. We go way back. Anyway, welcome everyone. It is a pleasure. It is an honor to be here. Jaya, thank you for inviting me. In the capacity as an educator, some of you know that I'm also on the UNANCA Board of Directors as well, but in this case, I'm in the capacity of an educator. I have been representing these programs for the last 6 years here in Potomac, Maryland. So we really understand this value, the benefit of pivoting quickly into a virtual setting, which is incredibly prudent at the time. And as well, it opened up a lot of other opportunities for our students. So between our two schools, we started with about 80 and we've whittled down a little bit. We're actively about 40 students between the two schools now. And we've had the opportunity of being able to take advantage of all of the virtual simulations, as well as the webinars that GCDC has offered, as well as the curriculum that has also led itself very nicely to our virtual platform. If you are not aware with Montgomery County, but most of our students are still virtual learners. We're slowly trickling back into the schools. As for my own children, they are home with me today. So being able to pivot quickly into this virtual platform was essential, and also well received, meaning that the students really appreciated being able to have the normalcy and the continuity of having a modern program outside of just doing school things. So it gave them another extracurricular activity that was constant, reliable, and purposeful. So I would say that there was definitely a well-being that was presented from students being able to check in once a week, doing something that was outside of the bubble of their normal academics, and being able to really focus on the issues of the UN and the SDGs. So I applaud GCDC on being able to give us such a strong platform to be able to do that. It was really integral. And we actually had to transition pretty early because, we forget we've been doing this for a year already. This is a solid full year. March, when we were in the end of last year, we were supposed to go to the conference at the US State Department, which was so sadly canceled. And GCDC stepped up and we decided to try and do our own version. Actually, Amy had, Alice Steele had hosted their own conference, and we said, you know what, Amy gave us some assistance and we decided to go ahead and try and do it virtually, and GCDC stepped in and said, we're here to moderate and help you guys out. And the students had a version of the conference that they would have had at the US State Department. And even from there, all the mini simulations that we've had thereafter has been really important to making the students feel as if they're still engaged, and having these bona fide type of conference type simulations. So it's been integral and important to their experience. So it's been exciting. I would say, and Amy can attest to this, our students, they're innovators, they're passionate about these issues, and our resources and our time is well placed, being able to invest in students like this. So it's been incredibly rewarding to see where these students have come throughout the year with this online virtual transition. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Audrey. And it's with the commitment of educators and parent volunteers like yourself that we've been able to successfully adapt. So I wanted to thank you as well for all of your assistance, all the phone calls that we've had over the past year, of making sure we're available for you and your students. Next, I'm just going to turn it over to Amy Trenkle, who is the Model UN advisor for Alice Steele Middle School.
Hi, thank you. So nice to see familiar faces here, and so nice to see everyone. So hello, I was muted earlier, but hello. So thank you for having me. I'm an 8th grade history teacher at Alice Steele Middle School, but also the MUN advisor for 6th, 7th, and 8th graders. We have about 60 on our team, but about 45 who show up on any given Tuesday for our regular meeting. And I have to say, I'll echo everything that Audrey said earlier, from transitioning to the virtual world, and the consistency that MUN and GCDC has provided for our students is so important. But on another level, like also the virtual world, while we miss everybody in person, has also provided a consistency that has allowed for students to have tiered practice through breakout rooms, et cetera, which has been really exciting, I think, as an educator to be able to see. So, I mean, GCDC has been a mainstay for me. I know professionally, it has ground us in great materials from providing mini sims and using course materials that are on the Schoology website. And always gives me, especially as somebody who's thinking of how do I help engage these students and give them something fresh every time to think about, has really provided that through the posting of the background guides, mini sims. We'll use one of them in our upcoming parent night as we plan. And it's just so nice to have a bank of resources and other people who are there that I know it's quality and it's vetted, and it's been so exciting. And it's really inspired the students to learn more about the world topics and thinking about, we've been able to have somebody in to help with financial literacy and to help students think about topics that they tend to migrate, mind you, towards the climate change and towards children in war zones, which are all very valid and wonderful. But I love that these topics that come through GCDC help them to broaden their scope and say, what about, or we don't know much about. And it's been really wonderful to, from conferences, training seminars to the Schoology website, to really help guide students and to help them think broader. And I included here a guest speaker that we had on the left-hand slide, and even so much so that in the virtual world, going to go take a virtual tour of the UN and to have guides from the UN for my students. Even though we couldn't make it to New York City, they were super excited to see what it looked like inside, and to just all of this enthusiasm that is built up throughout the course of our year and years, as it has been with some of them for me. But GCDC has also done a great job of connecting us, from like Audrey and working with other schools and other delegates, and being able to see and to connect at conferences, or even if to work with other schools. And so that's been a really wonderful opportunity as well that GCDC has provided in sharing with those schools and delegations, and to also collaborate with groups across the district. So here we were working, this is a couple of my delegates, students with Ms. Blankson from Czech and one of her students, and kind of going through parliamentary procedure and voting, and just kind of working through and having a dialogue, and which has been really, really wonderful for students to connect across other DC schools. And then very much so, I think GCDC is what has given us the confidence and opportunity to create, plan, organize, and host. We did host, we participated in the spring or the fall conference, and we'll participate today, and just were able to host our own conference just a couple weeks ago. And it has just, GCDC has been that foundation for myself, for students. They love the conferences. They love knowing that whether it's online or in person, that it's going to be a great conference, and that they're really going to have wonderful debate. And so it's a pleasure to be here today, and a pleasure to be able to share how inspiring and how instrumental that GCDC has been to me as an educator, and to my delegates and to my students for Model UN. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Amy. As I said with Audrey, it's the commitment from educators like you, Audrey, other schools that have been in our program for so many years that keep us going, and it helps us improve all of the content that we're able to provide for our schools. We're all here today because of our commitment to preparing the next generation of global citizens and ensuring that they're equipped with the skills and resources necessary to become advocates for the issues that they care about. Now we want to hear from all of you. We're going to be opening up breakout rooms in just a second for about 5 minutes. While you're in those rooms, we'd like for you to reflect on the following questions. What global issue or SDG matters most to you, and how are you taking action? How do you, as an educator, UN staff, or foreign affairs professional, see GCDC as a conduit for the global goals? And I am popping these questions in the chat just in case you didn't have a chance to record them, and the breakout rooms should be opening in just about a second, and you should get that pop up.
You're muted.
Thank you. Sorry about that. You're on Zoom and I still can't figure out how to unmute myself, but hope you all had productive breakout sessions and got to engage with other members of the GCDC network that you may have not had previous encounters with. I'd like for 1 to 2 people to share some of their reflections from the breakout rooms that you were just in, answering either of the questions that were proposed. And go ahead and just unmute and share your remarks.
Always the problem of the first mover. Just to say that, in terms of the re-engagement, in terms of the SDGs, in terms of, what we see moving forward in GCDC, look, I'm very excited that a lot of the issues the ILO deals with, and many of you may know that the Decent Work agenda and the goal 8 is central, to eliminating poverty, to women's empowerment, to clean planet, to ending hunger, to promoting education. For us at the ILO, it's always been a very important issue. And having been a part of that team that negotiated the language for the SDGs when I was up in New York, I'm glad to see that we have another generation of students who are really engaging and seeing it as a part of their life, and not as something that is separate from them. And then being able to provide, opportunities for discussion through GCDC. And thank you very much, Paula and Jaya, for your, great leadership through this. And, a real pleasure for us to work with you to kind of help put the puzzle together, or help provide some of the answers to that. And in many ways, it's good to know that that there is an organization doing that. Otherwise, like myself, I never participated in a model UN. I never had an organization to do it for me. I struggled to get myself into the UN. So hopefully now there'll be a clearer path for a lot of people to see themselves as global citizens and a part of a larger movement. Over.
Yeah, that's certainly really important, Kevin. Thank you so much for sharing. Anyone else like to share a reflection from their breakout sessions?
This is Jane Eisenhart here, and our breakout session was really neat because we had an educator, and so we were hearing about all of the students' work around the world and how they're connecting to the global goals and addressing all of the issues that we at UNEP and the other UN entities have been working on. So that was a really exciting thing to learn more about. Thanks.
Wonderful. Thank you both for your wonderful remarks. We hope the conversation does not end here and that you all continue to take action to help the world achieve the global goals. Now, I would like to invite Mark Schlachter from the U.S. Department of State for brief remarks.
Thank you, Jaya. And let me add my welcome to everybody on behalf of the State Department, whether virtual or in person. It's a genuine pleasure and honor to be partners with UNA and CAO in this vital program and to support GCDC over the years as we have. Now, I'm not going to dwell on the virtual nature of the year's event and how it might compare with the usual conference atmosphere, which sort of plays out right in front of my office here. But I will say how impressed we all are at the commitment and determination we see from the UNA team, from Jaya, from Paula, all the volunteers that help sustain this opportunity for the students. And of course, the teachers in the schools who make special effort to participate in less than ideal circumstances. I really applaud that. I understand how much energy and initiative that takes. While we look ahead of the resumption of more in-person activities in the coming months and in 2022 conference that I hope will be right back in this building, I believe we're in a moment, we're in a year, we're in a transition that I think we should mark very thoughtfully. And I say that because the new administration is, what's the word, reanimating and expanding our global engagement in some very important ways. And I can tell you that there's very real excitement across the department at the opportunities ahead of us. On issues like climate, on conflict resolution, on global health, there's a real energy in the building that's not necessarily unprecedented, but it's hasn't been a recent phenomenon, and it suggests significant action across a host of important issues. And that energy is, it's always a feature of the Model UN and the Model UN activities here. In fact, it's the most frantic day this building experiences every year, and we miss it. The energy is not always prevalent in the hallways of this building. So I think we're at a different time, and the building is largely empty. And in spite of that, there's a genuine pulse of excitement across the diplomatic corps. Now, as I'm sure as everybody knows, one of the key priorities of President Biden and Secretary Blinken is to speak more clearly and more frequently to the American people, and to explain U.S. foreign policy and its relevance to all of our daily lives. And sometimes that's a message, not sometimes, very frequently that's a message that is lost. It's not a strong suit of the department or American diplomats to speak to Americans. That's not why we're here. But that's going to become much more of our job going forward. It's changing, and programs such as Model UN are an important element of that effort. We hardly need to push American youth to be interested in global issues. They're already much better informed and engaged than any of us at their ages. With all due respect to the youth on the call today. What we can do is provide opportunities such as GCDC to support and encourage that interest. And that is why this partnership has endured. And it's what it has pursued and achieved for the last 15 years. We are at the department and at the Bureau of International Organization Affairs determined to see that continue. I don't think there's any doubt that it will continue, because the interest across my community at the department has never been greater. And I think you will get a feeling from that, from the fact that the secretary paused his schedule to record a message for the students. And I'm banking on the fact that he will make an in-person appearance next year. So let's all cross our fingers that that's the case. Thank you very much for giving me an opportunity to say hi, and please consider me at your disposal going forward. I look forward to jumping into the conference from time to time and giving witness to some of the great work that's being done. Thank you very much, and back to you.
Thank you so much, Mark. We sincerely appreciate the commitment of you all to the GCDC program. Like you said, for the past 15 years, we certainly could not be here without your support. Next up, we will hear from our UN partners, starting with Kevin Cassidy from the International Labour Organization. I just did want to note, if you do have multiple slides, please just direct Ashiana, who is currently coordinating the slides, to forward to the next slide.
Great. Well, I think we can move on from here. Hi, everybody. I'm Kevin Cassidy, and the director of the office here for the United States and responsibility for Canada and the Bretton Woods institutions. If we can go to the next slide. I think it may be interactive and there may be a message from the Director General, but we can just keep the volume off on that. But just to say, we are one of the oldest institutions. We come out of the Treaty of Versailles. We've had many changes throughout the years, but always with a focus on social justice and, of course, dignity in the workplace. We're a normative agency, so what we have is a supervisory mechanism, research functions. We have a statistical department and a supervisory mechanism in making sure that these conventions are actually applied. We're very keen to sort of push on issues that are relevant. The World Day Against Child Labor, the 12th of June. We have the World Day of Health and Safety coming up. Now with COVID-19, we see how threadbare our social safety nets are and how important it is. You can go to the next slide. How important it is to have protection across the life cycle. So whether that is having access to healthcare, whether that's access to education or nutritional assistance. We have also started working in the green economy, looking at that transition, a just transition, to ensure that people have opportunities moving forward, and also ensuring that that there is support in transitions from school to work, from job to job, and then from work to retirement, which many of the young students today may not benefit from a pension or some of the other schemes that we older generations have been benefiting from. But we still believe that the work we're doing is still extremely relevant. And of course, in a globalized world and with the future of work staring us in the face with mega drivers of change, of climate change and introduction of digital technologies, demographic shifts, labor migration, and now with pathogens entering into this, the world of work is going to be definitely an important area to focus on as we start to look building back better, building back greener, and building back with a rights-based approach. So thank you very much, and really excited to be a part of this program. Over.
Thank you so much, Kevin. Next up, we will hear from Laura Fuller from the UN Environment Program.
Thank you so much, Jaya. Nice to see everyone. Thanks so much for having me. And I would love to see Amy's slides of the students that have the similar background that I have, the UN background, the official background. I want to tell you a little bit about the UN Environment Program, UNEP, and what's key on our minds right now is our 50th anniversary, which is happening next year. So not quite as old as the ILO, founded in 1919, good to know. So we're the baby UN agency, but a very important agency. And for the last 50 years, we've been the leading global authority on the environment as a voice within the UN system. Our headquarters are based in Nairobi, Kenya, which is one of the very few agencies, UN agencies, who have their headquarters in the global south. And we have 6 regional offices around the world. I am based at our regional office in Washington, DC. That's the regional office for North America, which includes Canada and the US. Oh, I should have said that. Thank you for changing my slide. So our office here was established about 20 years ago to support UNEP's international work by building partnerships to tackle the great environmental issues of our time, such as climate change, disasters and conflicts, chemicals and waste, and resource efficiency. And I think that you know, and we know that our work now is more important than ever. We're facing extreme global challenges, which have been worsened by the pandemic. But long before COVID began, we were already experiencing the dire consequences of our triple planetary crises that we identify as the climate crisis, the biodiversity crisis, and the pollution crisis, all of which are a result of our unsustainable consumption and production patterns, which impacts everyone differently. And there's huge inequality in this, and you'll learn more about it during the sessions for the classrooms. But you know, we've seen it in the news and felt it, the rising temperatures, the wildfires, droughts, floods, hurricanes. We see it in the air pollution in our cities and the plastics that's choking our oceans, and even the emergence of the pandemic can be linked with environmental disruption. Next slide, please. But there is, hang on to we'll launch the video in a sec. I just want to say that all of this negative energy still mean it's not the end. There is absolutely reason for hope. This is a big year. The climate change conference is happening in November in Glasgow, where global leaders will commit to real change. And I believe that if we all come together and act with great urgency, we can pull our societies back from the brink. So I wanted to share this video with you. It's a short video that gives you a little bit more insight into the environmental challenges we're working to address, so we can all have a more sustainable future. So it's just about a minute and a half. If you don't mind playing the video, that would be great. And there is sound.
Ashi, there's no sound coming through.
I apologize. 1 second, Maya.
Thanks so much. And that's it for me. Back to you, Jaya.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Laura. We really appreciate the partnership that we've had with UNEP over the past 2 years. Lastly, we have Maria Moreno from the International Organization for Migration.
Hello and good afternoon to everyone. I don't expect to use the presentation, but you can just go over as I speak. I am honored to be here representing USA for IOM for the 3rd year. USA for IOM is the awareness raising, educational, charitable, philanthropic, and private sector engagement arm of the International Organization for Migration in the United States. At USA for IOM, we work to establish partnerships that help us raise awareness about migration, human mobility, and IOM's life-saving humanitarian work around the world. We want to work to increase this awareness about helping people forced from their homes and by natural disasters and complex emergencies, the worsening impacts of climate change, those escaping violence, destitution, and economic instability. Protecting also victims of human trafficking is one of our largest mandates. We are pleased to be here this year, and that we partner with the UNANCA to bring the migration and human mobility theme with a focus on the impact of COVID-19 in mobile populations. Nothing more relevant than mobility and restrictions due to COVID-19, and I really hope that we were able to put together a topic, a curriculum that was of interest, but of relevance given the current situation that we are all living in. Again, just very briefly, I am pleased to be representing this partnership for the 3rd year. And I want to thank Paula and your team, GCDC, Jaya, and everybody who made this possible. Thank you to the donors that also support initiatives like this that inspire us and remind us of why we do what we do, and that we have the opportunity to create a better foundation for the next generations of thinkers, decision makers, innovators, and world changers. So with that being said, I just look forward to seeing you all next year, and thank you and welcome to the GCDC. Over.
Thank you so much, Maria. And again, thank you to all of our partners here today. We truly could not have gotten through this difficult year without all of your support. To end our program, I'd like to invite our conference sponsors to the floor, starting with Steve Mosley, UNA-NCA Board Chair. I also did want to note I will be popping our conference website in the chat, so you can join us today for any part of the program or for sessions and closing tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jaya, and thank all of you. I'm so pleased to hear and see all of you since we can't see each other together. I think one of the most exciting times for a board chair and many of our board members is to come to this particular event. It's like having children. You don't dare say you have a favorite program, but this is one of the great favorites of all of the board of directors of UNA-NCA. And on their behalf, I want to express thanks to quite a number of people. I'm going to go through some of those special thanks. We've just seen the wonderful presentations from our UN agency partners, which is growing stronger and stronger and makes such a difference. And it's especially time to have that difference reflected in post-COVID periods as we get to that, because it demonstrates so well our interest in a multi-faceted program that UNA-NCA does with the global classrooms, and be able to draw on now the integrated experiences across the SDGs that all of you represent. That's the heart of what we're doing. The other thing that you emphasize, but I want to emphasize, is that the heart of what we're doing is to try to see where there is relevance in each of the global goals and global needs back to our own community in the greater DC, Virginia, and Maryland area. And this program has begun to do that. It would, but for the SDGs, it would have been harder 10 years ago to think seriously about a cross disciplinary approach. And I think we've all been working to make that possible. And it's going to be ever so much more important going forward after the COVID period, because the COVID period crisis doesn't end with the vaccination progress in the United States. Unfortunately, it looks like it's a 2 to 3 year process for every country to have opportunity and equity to do this. I want to also, though, with the rolling, I think we're going to roll the scroll of the sponsors' names. I'm not going to name them all. Fortunately, there are over 30 direct sponsors who have contributed to making this conference possible. Some of them are year-long sponsors. Others have made special contributions to UNA NCA for the Global Classrooms Conference and for the Spring MUN Conference this year. So I want to thank, there they are. I want to thank all of them, some of whom are on the program for this open house, but it's an extraordinary outreach by both board members, non-board members, regular members, members from our AC. I just want to extend our heartfelt thanks to them. Without their contributions, it would not be possible for UNA NCA to afford to make this based on our general budget. So this has been really extraordinary. Also, I want to thank the continuing collaboration of the State Department with the UN agencies. Maybe the State Department is the longest running independent agency working with collaboratively with us. And Mark, I want to thank you for your very welcoming remarks and indicating that we'll probably be welcome next year as well. That will be just wonderful. I'm so glad you're there along with your colleagues representing the return to the global issues commitment of the United States in a way. Our mission is to foster a strong UN agency collaboration and partnership to make our participation from the US be one of many strong partners to make it possible for a multilateral partnership to occur. And your leadership at the IO and Mr. Blinken's leadership already stating the return to the many collaborations with UN agencies for this agenda is so exciting and so promising for us to be able to go forward. Finally, I want to, having thanked our direct sponsors, having thanked our board and thanking you, I really do want to express my sincere thanks to the teachers and the schools who are our real partners day to day throughout the year, and to Jaya and to Paola and your team for making it possible to have a very successful year and the most challenging year, I think, for any of our lives. I grew up in Washington, but it wasn't Washington, D.C. It was Washington, Pennsylvania, which is a tiny old steel coal town. So I really miss not having had a global classrooms program to participate in as a kid. So thank you all very much for making this a very exciting opportunity for UNA NCA to make its maximum contribution to our mission. Thank you all indeed.
Thank you so much, Steve. And again, thank you for your support over the past couple of years, as well as your leadership for UNA NCA. Lastly, I just wanted to close out our program again saying thank you to all of our donors, our sponsors, our UN partners, and our State Department officials here on the call today. We really could not have gotten through the school year without any of your support. It's because of your constant drive to, your constant drive for the next global generation of citizens that we're really here today. I hope you're able to join us for opening ceremonies and other committee sessions for the rest of the day today and tomorrow. You can access all of the Zoom links at the conference website that I popped in the chat earlier. If you do have any questions, please feel free to reach out to the GCDC team directly at gcdc@unanca.org. But again, thank you so much for joining us today, and we hope you have a great rest of your day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for your support.